Yeah, it's I've got a dog barking that's going to wake up my three children and have my wife breathing down my neck here because, she's had a long day with her kids. But I came from a background of just working in audiovisual, normal, everyday guy, living my life, squandering my youth trying to play in a band whose best gig was opening for the band Default, if you've even heard of them. And then I got into doing sound and lights for corporate events, and it just started turning into a career for myself. And I was talking to coworkers when COVID hit, and I was noticing that I was spending like an hour a day talking to two or three people that would gather, and they were utterly psyoped. And I said, why am I wasting my time on these people who roll their eyes and go, oh, Trump, let me guess, Alex Jones addict over here, right? And no matter, I'd be wasting time putting it into these people. And I'd say, well, I'm just going to use the internet and I'll rant on my way to work, get my thoughts out for the day. And I set a metric of if more than 50 people watch, I'll consider that worth doing. I mean, you're just saying 2 minutes of truth to people. How much effort does that take? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I can do that. And therapeutically, I'll be like, at least I'm saying something. The normal is alive somewhere, because it's certainly not alive at my work, and that was in Toronto. The guys out here that I work with are really good. But in the early, and I still love all those guys that I disagreed with at my old work. But as soon as the jab came, I'm like, I'm the only one, aren't I? And I looked around, there was like 40 people that worked at my company. And they're like, yeah, we're all getting it. We're all 30 years old and want to travel and go do audiovisual in Chicago and San Diego next month. And I'm like, okay, well, it's an experiment, and you guys I can't fault you for rolling the dice. I know you've been tortured and had your freedom taken away. And I actually had a guy on a crew because we were doing hybrid events in a studio. Province and time. So 2021 was like this studio time. And so I was producing with like saying, okay, we're going live on camera one. You've got to get the 2 Zoom calls up on screen because they're about to go to Sheila in accounting. And we were doing all this. And the guy that operates the Zoom machines, I won't name names here, but the guy he was a super nice guy, by the way. And he had, I knew he'd been injected. I knew everyone I talked to. I tried to stop them all, but they said clearly that they were on a path towards getting these products. And I said, okay, that's all. I've said my piece. Now I'm done. Go do what you want. And then this guy is like behind me, and we're in the studio. I'm just going over the cue sheet going, okay, what happens after they throw to the CEO as we run this video, and going through that. And I hear boom, boom behind me. And the guy fell through the table with his head flat onto the ground. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so ready for this moment because I've seen it happening online. And I'm like, maybe this is part of the psyop, but no, it's happening in real life to people around me. And so I help this guy up. I'm holding him in my arms, and his eyes are literally, ooh, and he's moaning, doing these low moans. And then suddenly his eyes just come to and look right at me. I'm like, bro, hey, you're here. That's great. And he just goes, oh yeah, I know. What? And he starts looking at me like, why are you holding me? What are you, gay?
Just has some seizure or something.
Yeah, dude. And so I stand in the hallway with him after, and we're waiting for the ambulance. And we called off. It was like a rehearsal day, like the day before show day. And so it wasn't a big deal to call everything off. And I'm waiting for him for the ambulance. And he's an outside contractor dude. And so he doesn't know that I'm, anti-vax 1000. And so I just go to him, I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm going next week because it was right at a time where our government was saying, what's the best one to get for your next dose? Anyone. Mix and match. Yeah. We don't care. It's a frontier science, okay? When they shot a monkey into space, he could do anything he wanted. We weren't telling him what not to do. And so I just tell him, I'm like, hey, bro, which ones did you get? And he's like, oh, my first one was Pfizer. My second one was AstraZeneca. And I'm like, that's why you're booming on the table behind me, isn't it? You know what I mean? And it was so like when the ambulance guy showed up, he'd seen this a million times before. He's like, what, you feel okay? Yeah, I feel okay. Head back inside, right? Because it couldn't be this experiment. It was weird, man. It was weird. And it was right before I was leaving forever. And I like my bosses. So I told them, I'm like, look, I know that this is going to be mandated. And you guys gave me a job here a couple of years ago when it wasn't a busy season. So they could have waited me out and said, you know what, come back in, the fall when we're actually doing shows again. And so they were good guys to me. And I said, okay, I don't want to go into like, I'm digging my heels in with lawfare. I will fight this to the bone. Right. I just took my loss and I said, I'll go work at, anywhere, Burger King,
Right.
anywhere that, will accept an unvaccinated person. But everyone did it across Canada. And then I called for employment insurance, and I'm like, hey, not really familiar with this process. So what happens here? Like, oh, if you haven't been vaccinated, you don't get that. I'm like, I figured that. Don't you think that's a little wrong? Don't you think this is insane what's going on right now? And they're like, yeah, well, it's, they've deemed it safe. So what are we going to do? I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Oh, well, fuck me. Right.
Right.
Yeah, man. Geez. Yeah. I've been thinking, and I actually read a post on, I keep wanting to call it Twitter, not X, but, I'm trying to not dead name it anymore. But I saw a post on X and it was talking about, the planes falling out of the sky, the people booming on the table, as you said. The one I think about all the time is doing these long stretches of drive in Alberta, is like these truck drivers going up and down. I'm like, how many of these that I see on the side of the road have been somebody that had a coincidence at the wheel and careened off the road and hit somebody else? Like, how many? I'm just going to have to be extra alert just to make sure someone doesn't come in and sideswipe me and my family off the road. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry that you just made me think about that now. Now I'm going to be watching every time. Like, please don't be a booster child. Oh man. Oh man. But yeah, you're right.